Welcome back to Rivers Cars, and apparently the Holden community now knows who I am, which is weird. A lot of people seem really happy with my reporting on this story, and others not so much. Hopefully, though, I'm in a position to kind of unruffle some feathers. This story definitely has a stranger ending than I expected when I first started it. Now, if you haven't had a chance to watch my first video on this subject, I would recommend watching that before you watch this one. Basically, the long and the short of it is this. I found a bunch of Holden vehicles that appear to be as they would have been in Australia, completely factory, normal cars here for sale in the USA. And knowing all about the 25-year rule and believing that the only federally legal Holdens here in the USA were left-hand drive, I reached out to the seller to figure out how he managed that. I thought, this is incredible. It's super cool. And he said multiple times that these are legal vehicles. So I thought, this deserves to be shouted from the mountaintops, basically. What a cool thing. Someone has figured out a way to make these legal here in the USA. Well, ultimately, that person ghosted me. Since then, a lot has happened. The seller in question threatened to sue me and threatened to sue CarScoops. But as far as I'm aware, nothing has come of that to this point. Now, if something does come of that, I'll be sure to let you know. But what did come from the story ultimately was a whole lot of drama. The seller deleted his Facebook post, and he ultimately seemingly went away. Now, at the same time, a bunch of people from the Holden community kind of came out of the woodwork because of the story. And in fact, since I posted that first video, I've had the chance to talk with basically all of the biggest people in the USA related to Holdens in the Holden community. All of them agreed to talk to me. Some reached out to me. I reached out to others. But I will say this. I'm not going to name names. I'm not going to say so-and-so said this or so-and-so said that, because I've come to learn something over this time that I didn't know before. The Holden community here in the USA is really tight-knit. It seems like, for the most part, everybody knows everybody else. It's kind of like a family. And just like a family, there are some black sheep, so to speak. So, I never intended to ruffle feathers with the first video, and I don't want to stir the pot anymore. So if you want to know who I talked to, I would suggest just Googling Holdens in the USA and look for all the top results. Pretty much everyone on that list I had the pleasure of speaking to. But the overarching theme of what they told me was this. Kelly, the seller, is leveraging the state of Tennessee's government to get himself real titles to these cars in question. Now, they end up having a title with the original car's VIN on the title for the state of Tennessee. What Kelly is allegedly doing in Tennessee, obtaining a Holden from Australia, getting it to Tennessee legally, and then getting a real legal title through the court system, is technically legal in the state, according to those that I spoke to. In fact, multiple sources confirmed to me that they, not just Kelly, have obtained insurance on similar cars. And in some cases, those insurance companies have covered damage to right-hand drive cars. From what I'm told, cars that come into the country have no modifications whatsoever, but do end up getting a legal title, and then insurance takes care of it. Now, there's some evidence at times that some cars with Holden badges might have VIN swaps, such as in the case of the car on Cars and Bids that I talked about in my first video. There are some other famous ones too that have been up on the internet off and on over the years. Now, of course, that's a big red flag, right? Because there are serious legal ramifications there, not only at a federal level, but at a state level potentially. And on top of that, there's insurance issues too, because there's a chance that an insurance company wouldn't cover damage to a car like that if they realized what had happened. Now, one source confirmed to me that a major supplier called into question one Holden ute because its VIN plate came back as a Pontiac G8. So let me be clear, from everything I've learned, the way that Kelly is getting titles for his cars in Tennessee, it appears that he's doing it the rightest way possible. In fact, one source who kind of knows Kelly, but really knows more of him, says that he's a pretty upstanding guy. In fact, that he's gone far above and beyond for the Holden community when he had no personal responsibility to do so. And this person shared with me documents corroborating that story. Now, as far as the federal government goes, these cars don't appear to meet the necessary requirements for a car that's less than 25 years old. And they certainly don't fall into some category of special exemption like show and display. In fact, multiple sources confirmed to me something that surprised me. They basically told me, and one person said this directly, none of them are legal. And in the case of that individual, he pointed to parts that simply can't be DOT certified. They can't be federally approved because those parts never came here. And you might be thinking, what am I talking about? You know, in the case of left-hand utes or people who do convert a car to left-hand drive, they're using DOT certified airbags and this and that and the other thing, right? What about the taillights on a Holden ute? Those never came to the USA in any sort of legal form, so they can't be federally legal. So let's hit on that point one more time. According to multiple sources, and one who said it directly to me, none of these cars, not the right-hand drive ones, not the left-hand drive ones, are federally legal. But, on the other hand, numerous parties have gotten real legal titles from within their local state. And not a single person that I talked to could confirm any instance where the federal government came after one of these cars. In addition, I spoke to Meacham Auctions. Remember in the first story, they had multiple Holdens up for sale, including a right-hand drive wagon, the car that started this whole thing. Now, what they told me was that they will check for a title. So long as the car has a title and the title VIN number matches the car VIN number, they consider it a safe sale. So that's why you see Holdens on their platform from time to time. So what's the moral of the story? Well, Holdens here in the USA can get a title legally, and at least one insurance agency not named Haggerty will insure them too. Does that make them federally legal? Not necessarily. So those interested in owning one of these cars need to do their due diligence. They need to make sure that they have a car that doesn't have anything to do with a VIN swap situation. They also need to make sure that they can get insurance and that insurance is going to cover the car, no matter what happens. Now, if all those boxes are ticked and you feel comfortable with the idea that at some point the federal government might try to come down hard on you, then by all means, enjoy these amazing Australian muscle cars. And frankly, it's pretty clear that there are a number of people around the country today that are doing exactly that. They've got these sort of cars, and they don't seem to be very worried about Big Brother. Finally, let me conclude this video by just saying this. I never intended to ruffle feathers here. I intended to kind of advocate for the consumer, right? I could imagine someone who didn't know about the 25-year import rule, seeing one of these cars, getting excited about its rarity, getting excited about how cool it is, buying it up, and then having a real problem on their hands down the line. I also want to say thanks to all the people that talked to me, and you know who you are, and I really appreciate you taking the time and sharing the insights that you had. And I appreciate all of you in the comments, too, for having sincerely constructive comments and for really civil discourse, even though a few of you really disagreed with my reporting. I will say, too, one source in this story turned me on to a similar set of cars that appear to be here illegally. We'll have to save that for the next episode, though. Thanks for watching.